Okay, so back to reading 50 Shades of Grey. I'm on page 332, or I guess 333. They've had a bunch of sex. Christian keeps sleeping in the same bed with her, which he never does. And OMG, it's a really big deal, guys. And he gave her a car. He gave her a computer. I used to think this guy sucked, but I kind of like to date him and get a free car and a computer. And he's like buying her clothes and shit. Like, pretty legit. Like, he's a creepy stalker. He tracks her cell phone. Oh, he tracks her cell phone at one point to find out what bar she's at so that he can come and pick her up, even though she didn't ask him to, and she's a full grown-ass woman. Whatever. So they've had a bunch of sex. She hasn't signed the sex contract that lets him do whatever he wants to her, which I don't understand why he even cares about this sex contract, because it's not even legally binding. And as I was thinking that, she's like, this isn't legally binding. And I'm like, then why does this contract matter? It's not legally binding. You just don't even need to sign it. You just still sleep with him. Or you can sign it and totally break the contract, and he would never take you to court over it, because you could... he's not going to sit there and be like, she signed up, she said that she would allow me to fist her. Like, he's not going to take you to court over that. And if he did, he would lose. Also, people would find out that he wanted to sign a sex contract with some 22-year-old. Some boring 22-year-old. If you're gonna have a sex contract with a 22-year-old, at least can they be interesting? Oh, and so they had sex, and it was, like, super hot or whatever, and, you know what? The sex scenes are actually not that bad. They're not great or anything, but they're the best writing in the book, because the entire book is atrocious, and then the sex scenes are, like, kind of okay. But, yeah, so he, like, stole her panties and put them in his pocket last time that they had sex, and he won't give her panties. Well, she doesn't know that he won't give them back. She just doesn't want to ask for them because she's like, I won't suffer the indignity of asking for my possession back. She acts like a real adult. No, I don't want to ask him. So then she's like, I'm going to go commando. And her inner goddess is like, Anastasia, Steele, how dare you? And she was like, it'll drive him wild. And then they dance, and it tells you everywhere that they danced. And it's like, we glide around the dining table, over to the piano, and backward and forward in front of the glass wall. Seattle twinkly outside, a dark and magical mural to our dance. I wish that she had studied Hemingway, because this is not how you write an interesting book. You don't have to describe every fucking thing that happens in the whole goddamn book. Like, every time that she gets dressed, she's like, I put on my socks, and then I put on my pants, and I put on my bra, and I put on my blouse, and then I put on my jacket, and then I slipped my shoes on, the left one. Then nobody cares. Just say you got dressed. Don't describe the goddamn sunrise to me. Just say there was a sunrise. Use your imagination. We, as the readers, can use our imagination. That's why books were invented, for you to read. And use your imagination to decide what people look like, to decide what they're wearing, to decide what the sunrise is like. I've seen a goddamn sunrise. I know what it's like. I can remember it, and I can use my imagination to say, I've seen dancing. I know what happens when people dance. I know what happens when people dance around furniture. They just move around it. It's fine. You don't have to... Okay, so anyway, they're going to go and meet Christian's parents, and they're going to family dinner. So I stopped after the dancing. Okay, thank you for the dance. Shall we go and meet my parents? Shall we go and meet my parents? Because every 27-year-old person living in the Pacific Northwest talks like that. You're welcome, and yes, I can't wait to meet them, I answered breathlessly. Oh, it was a... I'm not redoing the line, but just pretend that I was breathless. Do you have everything you need? Oh, yes, I respond sweetly. Are you sure? I think he's talking about her underpants. I nod as nonchalantly as I can manage under his intense, amused scrutiny. His face splits into a huge grin and he shakes his head. Okay, if that's the way you want to play it, Miss Steele. He grabs my hand, collects his jacket, which is hanging on one of the bar stools, and leaves. See, you don't have to tell me that you wore a jacket. And leads me through the foyer to the elevator. Oh, the many faces of Christian Grey. Will I ever be able to understand this mercurial man? That's another thing, is that she clearly used a thesaurus to write this, but then she just, like, picked her 8 favorite words that most people don't use and just uses them over and over again. She talks about how mercurial he is all the time. I've read it at least 10 times in this book. It's such a rarely used word that if you're going to use it, you should just use it once or twice, not 8 or 10 times. Okay. I peek up at him in the elevator. They like elevators. They make out in them. And it's super hot. He's enjoying a private joke, a trace of a smile flirting with his lovely mouth. I would have just borrowed a pair of his underpants. Okay. I fear that it may be at my expense. What was I thinking? I'm going to see his parents and I'm not wearing any underwear. Do you think his mom's gonna check? Like she's gonna be like, you have a visible panty line, because if you don't, you need to stop dating my son. My subconscious gives me an unhelpful I told you so expression. Oh, and her subconscious has expressions. It flips people off. It's kind of all it does. But I'm just saying, like, whose subconscious, like, makes physical act? Now, I'm almost outside with no panties. Like, she's never been like, okay, I need to do laundry, I don't have any panties, I'm gonna freeball it. Like, that's never happened to her. He peers down at me, and it's there, the charge building between us. The amused look disappears from his face and his expression clouds, his eyes dark. Ellipsis. Oh my. Is it ellipse or ellipsis? Whatever. The elevator doors open on the ground floor. Christian shakes his head as if to clear his thoughts and gestures for me to exit before him in a most gentlemanly manner. Who's he kidding? He's no gentleman. He has my panties. Ugh. Taylor pulls up in the large Audi. Taylor is his little right-hand man, is like butler, things, does all the things stuff guy. Christian opens the rear door for me, and I climb inside as elegantly as I can, considering my state of wanton undress. You're not in a state of wanton undress. You're wearing outer clothes. For centuries, underwear wasn't invented. People just didn't wear it. They didn't have it. They wore their clothes over their naked bits, and they didn't have bras and panties, and it was fine, and everything was fine, and they were fine. I'm grateful that Kate's plum dress is so clingy and hangs to the top of my knees. Alright, that is a dick move, though, because if somebody borrowed my dress and then wore it without panties, I'd be like, that's fucked. Dude, you need to get that dry cleaned. We speed up Interstate 5, both of us quiet, no doubt inhibited by Taylor's steady presence in the front. Christian's mood is almost tangible and seems to shift, the humor dissipating slowly as we head north. He's brooding, staring out the window, and I know he's slipping away from me. What is he thinking? I can't ask him. What can I say in front of Taylor? Where did you learn to dance? No one cares, I ask tentatively. He turns to gaze at me, his eyes unreadable beneath the intermittent light of the passing street lamps. Do you really want to know? She asked you the question. She obviously wants the answer. My heart sinks, and now I don't believe I can guess. Yes, I murmur reluctantly. Mrs. Robinson was fond of dancing. Oh, okay. So Mrs. Robinson, like when he was like 15, his mom's friend raped him, and like for 6 years they had this sub-dominant relationship where she was the dominant one and he was the sub. So that's the thing. That kind of makes his character a little bit more compelling. And no, no. It's so dumb, it's so dumb, it's so dumb. I hate the way that people talk to each other. It is so Nobody talks like this. Nobody in the world, and they talk to each other in these weird, stilted conversations. And I like, apparently, this woman is like married. Like, she got a guy to marry her. Like she has a husband, and I think she might have children. And you would assume that she would speak to those people, and then she'd be like, so that's what a conversation is like. Like, that's how I'll write my conversations. But no, she writes conversations the way that a soap opera writing reject would write. Because even like a soap opera person would be like, I'm a soap opera producer. Let me read this. This isn't realistic at all. And that's in a soap opera where everybody's accidentally married to their brother-in-law. All right. I need another break because this makes my shoulders hurt.